What is up, guys? Delboy here. I just wanted to shed some light on a fight I'm really looking forward to. The fight goes down on the 2nd of March, and the fight is between Erislandy Lara and Brian Castano. The fight is for the WBA World Super Welterweight title, so it's a bogus title as, Jarrett Hurd holds the real version, but bogus titles aside, I think this is a really good fight. Brian Castano is arguably the most underrated fighter in that division. Not many people are aware of who he is, and for most people this will be their first viewing of him, but I've seen a few of his fights and I'm relatively impressed with what I've seen. He doesn't have an extensive resume, he's 15-0, but he's got a couple of good solid wins over Cedric V2 and Michel Soro. Also, Castano was a decent amateur and he had experience in the World Series of Boxing, so he does have pedigree. And stylistically, I do believe he can pose problems for Erislandy Lara. Let's have a brief talk about the fight. As we know, I don't really need to explain Lara's style. We've seen him multiple times before. He likes to stick and move, he likes to hit and not get hit. He's defensively minded out that southpaw stance. He has that Cuban boxing style. We all know about Erislandy Lara. But Brian Castano is more of a pressure fighter. He likes to come forwards, he'll work the body, he will let his hands go. He's fairly decent at cutting off a ring, and he actually does have quite good foot speed coming forwards. And in the past, if you followed Lara's career, Erislandy Lara has actually struggled with pressure a few times. We go back to his last fight against Jarrett Hurd. He really struggled with the size and punch output of Jarrett Hurd. He struggled with the pressure that night, and he struggled to kind of keep up with the work rate, and he couldn't keep Jarrett Hurd off of him. And even before that, you go back to the Angulo fight. Angulo is a Bobby Basic pressure fighter. He comes forwards, highish guard, looping shots, slow hands, and he doesn't really do anything special, and he still managed to drop Lara twice and hurt him, and he gave Lara problems. Like I said, Angulo is a basic pressure fighter. He's not a world-class pressure fighter, and he still gave Lara problems. Carlos Molina, way back in the day. Now, I know Carlos Molina, he's not a pressure fighter, but when he got close to Lara, he gave Lara issues. Even Canelo, who is notoriously bad for cutting off a ring, when he got close to Lara and worked the body, you could tell Lara didn't like it. For me, Lara doesn't like pressure, and Castano actually applies good solid pressure. What I like about Castano, he doesn't always have to set his feet to punch, so he doesn't need you stationary. I've seen Castano, while coming forwards, still throw punches. He throws punches on the front foot while moving. That is something a good pressure fighter should be able to do, and he kind of shifts with it as well. If you are, familiar with the technique of shifting, I've seen Castano do things like that as well. These are, high-level pressure fighting skills. I like the way Castano cuts off the distance. He'll jab his way in. He's got fairly quick feet to get to the target. He doesn't follow you in straight lines. He'll take a step to his left or right to try and cut the ring off on you. And yeah, he does the basics extremely well. And his pressure fighting skills are fairly advanced actually. Carries decent power. A good combination puncher, works the body. He does what you expect a good pressure fighter to do. He maintains a good compact shape coming forwards, and he doesn't offer you too many free shots, which is good. So I actually believe Castano is a fairly advanced pressure fighter. I think he carries out that style fairly well, and I think he can give a lot of guys problems in the division with that style. His all-around boxing skills other than pressure are fairly decent. They are passable. I have seen Castano, move on the back foot with a jab. He can do it to a decent standard. He can get by, but I wouldn't pick him to outbox any of the top super welterweights, to be quite honest. His style is pressure, his style is coming forwards, and his style is to be aggressive. So yeah, I wouldn't pick him to win a boxing match with Erislandy Lara. The only issue with Castano is, like I said, as a pro, he's fairly inexperienced. He's 15-0, and his two best wins are Cedric V2, who's a good European level boxer, and Michel Soro, who is a good fringe world level contender. Soro can box quite well. He can be elusive, and I felt Castano did a good job of closing the gap on him. So yeah, Castano hasn't fought the elite guys, but from what I've seen, he's dealt with everyone he's been in there with fairly comfortably. And it's an interesting fight. I really believe Castano has a great chance in this one. If he can push Lara back and, push him to the ropes, push him into the corners and, let his hands go, I think he will have success. Castano, like I said, he puts his shots together very well. He varies the attack. He'll go down to the body, come back upstairs, uppercuts through the middle. He's got a good arsenal of punches. Like I said, punching on the move could be key for him. He needs to do that in this fight. And if he can implement that, I do actually expect it to pay off. And I do believe it will result in success. Lara's a guy who, he'll jab on the move, but when he counters, he likes to set his feet. And if you can punch on the move, it's a good way to force your opponent back. And, it renders Lara's counter-punching as, kind of useless because he's moving back and he can't set his feet to counter. Lara, like I said, Lara likes to set his feet to land his counters. He'll only jab on the back foot. He don't really throw many other punches on the back foot. And yeah, if Castano can throw punches while coming forwards, then that could pay dividends, to be quite honest. He could also catch Lara off balance and drop him while he's on the move. I could see that happening. But he would need to do that from early on because Lara is one of those fighters where if you let him kind of get into a rhythm and get into his groove, he's really hard to beat. I think Castano needs to turn up for pressure from round one to win this fight. If he lets Lara settle down and, kind of find a rhythm, chances are he'll lose a decision. So to me, this fight is dependent on how Castano starts. If I'm Erislandy Lara, do what you do best. Move, jab, counter. Try to catch Castano early on with some good snapping punches. Try to discourage the pressure. Castano, he's a good pressure fighter, like I said, but he's not infallible. Defensively, he does get hit. So if Lara can time him with a couple of those powerful left hands to discourage him, that will stand him in good stead. It will help him settle down into the fight. Because Lara, for what it's worth, I do actually believe Lara hits quite hard. He's not like a powder puff puncher. It's just because he doesn't really commit that much. When he punches and sets his feet, you can tell his shots have an effect. He doesn't always knock people out or drop them, but you can tell his opponents kind of freeze in their tracks. Jarrett Hurd aside. So yeah, I think Lara needs to land some good hard shots early on. That's one of the better ways to domesticate a pressure fighter. Show him a bit of variety, have a good jab, vary it from body to head, change the levels, keep Castano off balance, and just try and outbox him. Lara needs to do what Lara does best, but with a bit more panache. He needs to be a bit more willing to land some hard counters to get Castano's respect, because I think Lara at times has been guilty of moving a little bit too much, and as a result, it's made him kind of lose fights that maybe he shouldn't have. I look at that Canelo Alvarez fight for an example. To me, Lara should have won that fight. I felt he won the fight, but he gave the judges an excuse to rob him. So, yeah, I do believe, like I said, Lara just needs to do what he does best. Move, be defensively cute, but, just let go of that left hand a little bit more. That's all. If Lara does what he does best, he's got a great chance. Same with Castano. I believe this is a 50-50 fight, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. I just wanted to shed a bit of light on this fight because not too many people are talking about it, and I think that's a bit of a shame. Bogus title aside, it's a really good fight between two top 10 super welterweights. I cannot wait for this fight. Share your thoughts below. Peace.